why? You know, they're still on there. You know, well. But also, like a good thing to do is if when you're starting out, just make sure that your strings are crisp and fairly new, and you have someone who you trust who helped you get started on the guitar. And there's a lot of video stuff online, and there's a lot of computer things that can help you. But nothing beats having someone who sits across from you and says, "Let's try it this way." You know, I know you're self-taught,
Yep.
and my hat's off to you. In fact, I'm not even wearing a hat. But you know, to be able to do that. But for me, it was real important to have someone when I was starting out saying, "Well, what if you tried it this way?" And those little extra tricks, like you were talking about with your teacher, you had to just, what if you did it this way? What about you when you first, if you have someone who wants to learn the steel or dobro
or anything.
anything,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you know, as you were talking, I was just thinking, how good an instrument do you need to play? And I think that's kind of what it boils down to, is how, and there's some researchers have done a lot of surveys, and they've determined that it takes about 10,000 hours to master a skill, such as playing a musical instrument or being a surgeon or whatever. 10,000 hours now it takes to get to be really, really good. And in playing a musical instrument, it seems
I got about 5,000 to go. Right?
you'd probably be surprised. 10,000, you know, that's if you 40 hours a week, that's about 10 years, 5 years. That's about how long it takes to go to medical school. That's about right. And playing a musical instrument, you know, the 5,000 to 10,000 hours is no big deal. You just keep playing. The challenge is the first 100 hours.
Yes.
Or maybe the first 1,000 hours.
Yeah.
Once you get past that, then you get. So, you know, people talk about giftedness and, you know, talent and all that. And if there's a gift, I think the gift is persevering through the first 100 hours,
Right.
or 500 hours or whatever. And if you're also at that time fighting an instrument you don't like or that doesn't play well, you're not going to make it.
I had an old girlfriend's dad one time gave me a guitar that he found at his pawn shop or junk shop, and it had a neck. I think they cut a baseball bat in half and used that thing. And well, this is a cool guitar. I tried it. So it is so hard. I could, golly, man, I'm just not any good at this, you know. And then I got another guitar. I remember the first time I played this guitar. It played itself almost. You know, it's just that. Of course, I don't recommend everybody start with this kind of guitar, but
Well, why not? Wouldn't it make sense to start with something really easy to play?
well, that's true. But I think you can. There are easy guitars to play that
Don't cost as much.
don't cost as much. The tone's not the same. You know, you can't. A Stradivarius violin is not the same thing as some other brand violin. So, yeah.
I think the other thing that goes along with that, I know I'm experiencing whether or not you have your action adjusted high or whether you have it medium.
What is the action? What's that?
That actually is how far that string is off that neck, and there's a heck of a lot of articles and internet traffic that talks about that. But I think each player has to determine what works for them. Just recently bought a McPherson guitar where they provide you 3 different insets that you can use, a low, a medium, or a high. And I'm oscillating between the low and medium, and it depends on the music, depends on the style, it depends on the song, and each of them kind of react a little differently. And I was looking at Jim's dobro there. That's a great illustration of some high action there.
Yeah, the normal action of a steel is about ½ inch.
Oh my goodness.
That's the kind of standard height off the press.
Oh my goodness. Can you imagine?
You don't want it to touch the
Yeah.
That was my.
It's high enough you don't have to worry about it hitting the neck.
That's right. That'd be awful. You know, because you're spending half the time. You could crush apples learning.
Well, why acoustic guitars? I see, our preference seems to be acoustic guitars rather than electric.
Well, I don't know if mine is necessarily a preference. I enjoy all of them. People ask me sometimes what kind of music I enjoy playing, and I said what I'm doing at that particular time. And it's like a guy with you're talking about your dad had a workshop.
Mhm.
He had more than one hammer,
Mhm.
and they had different sizes and weights, and it's the same kind of deal with some kind of music. You want a certain sound, and there will be some times I'll just get one of my electrics out and sit home by myself, and I'll be playing blues for a couple hours. Just me and those parrot those 5-note scales. And we'll just do that. And you make great music that way, and then sometimes you just it's a different voice that you want to come out of yourself. I think.
I think I navigate back to the acoustic because it's so easy to get preoccupied with electronics. I use a lot of pedals. I use a lot of the synthesizers and the distortion pedal and grunge, and you're going after that. And oftentimes, especially if you're in a performance or if you're in a church venue or something, you can spend so much time adjusting your tones and things on your pedals that you forget you're there to create some music. And the tone, the real tone, an older musician told me this once, and it's taken me several years, and I'm still learning that. But the tone is here in your hand.
Right.
And it's how you hold the guitar or what you do with that. And I still don't understand that totally, but as I've watched each of you this morning, each of you do a little different procedure to get that tone, and you've developed that over the years, and that just works. I see a little bit of vibrato that you're doing, or that chick thing kind of thing that you're doing there.
Yeah.
But each of those things work for you, and that's truly your tone. That's your signature. Right now, when you turn on the radio, it's awful hard to determine what player is playing until you hear a signature tone that a guy's got.
Right.
That's truly who they are, and that's your own voice in your music.
Yeah, when you get that one note, that goes.
B.B. King's.
Yeah,
They're pretty good
yeah.
at 3 or 4 notes.
Oh yeah, he's made a living playing a couple of notes there.
And he knows which ones to play. That's it. That's it. That's it.
Little vibrato.
That's it. Yeah. And that's because when he used to play with those horn bands, and he played solos down here, and back in the 50s, nobody could hear him. But he played these high notes, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
Comes to cut through.
yeah. Okay, so if I were a beginning guitar player, what would you do to start?
I'd tell them to call Charles David Smart.
Smartfriends.com.
to begin his lessons. I'm not a great teacher, and I've taught a few people with what I know, but
Well, the great teacher is not the person who knows everything, but the great teacher is the one who cares enough to share the ideas that
I think
they do
that's
know.
very important because they need some inspiration.
Yeah.
And I know that my inspirations were different people, different things, and but I try to be that inspiration to a lot of the young people that have asked me to do lessons, and I'll usually tell them, I'll give you lessons for maybe 6 weeks, and then from there you need to call someone like Charles David Smart, or someone that is, will give them a quality lesson. Reading music, and I always encourage that because I kind of let that go in my younger years.
Well, I used to be a music snob. I thought, if you can't read music, you're just not a musician. And then I played with some great jazz players, and I said, "Where's your charts?" "We don't know what to think." I said, "Oh my gosh!" And so,
Yeah.
But the music is what you create, and the art is what you hear. And if I know a lot of people who just make great music by just
Yeah.
those tones.
I think we all maybe experience, well, if I'm going to play this song, you try to play it like the original artist. You try to make that sound like Chet Atkins, or you make it sound like Tommy Emmanuel or Lawrence Juber, 3 of my favorites. But at some point,
Yes.
you kind of realize that you're wasting a lot of time
Yes.
trying to sound like someone else rather than sound like yourself.
Right.
And it took me a while to kind of get to that point, but you know, then I think your instrument becomes more enjoyable. Your music starts coming out.
I think beginners need to realize too that music is not a competition.
Hmm.
There's no such thing really as the world's greatest guitar player.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, it's like there was a music store recently that had the world's greatest blues guitar player, and one of my sons, what are you gonna do? Play one note? I got it. You know, it's just how you play that one note. That, you know, there are some people who just spend hours and hours trying to be the fastest, and that's good for that.
Maybe they're getting paid by the note.
That's right. Paid by the note.
Well, it's, you know, listening to you all play, you know, when I hear Lester play, I think, oh, that sounds beautiful. You know, just, you know, that's Lester. And then I heard you play that little piece a little earlier. Again, totally different approach, but beautiful sounding. And of course, your lap steel is just, you know, the amazing. I couldn't play that. And so, you know, it's just, you know, how do you gauge to rate an artist or a musician in a category like that? And
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's that personal.
You know, one of the things I'm learning, and it's taken me a little while to understand this backward, upside down guitar that I play.
I always think of an ambulance when I see you play.
But someone told me this a long time ago. They told me that when you're born an original, and when you die a copy, because you've taken on everything that everyone else has done. And it's important that we just kind of recognize that the Creator always wanted you to be original.
Yeah.
And there's some original ideas or original things that He's allowed you to do over the course of your years that make you truly who you are.
Yeah.
It's interesting that He has kind of just given us each of us our own identity, our own DNA, our own fingerprint. And so there's something that maybe we need to look at as it relates to our music and how we perform that should be our own music. That's our own little DNA part of the world that someone else needs to hear.
Well, that's what we have today. Hope you enjoy it.
Is that a wrap?
I guess we're at.
Okay.
Okay. Any final comments on the guitar world from anybody?
well, I wasn't going to talk about Timberline guitars at all.
That's right.
That's
Of
funny.
course.